Welcome to this episode of the Siddha Podcast. Today's guest is one more time Marty Wuttke. Marty Wuttke is known and really a world-renowned neurofeedback practitioner and clinician. He's known for his miracles he does with neurofeedback, which is a method to train the brain. But something else, maybe not all of you know, is that Marty is a long-term yogi. He actually probably started to be a yogi in his infant years. He once told me a story that he was sitting in a lotus posture in the garden with, 2 or 3 years old.
Yeah, very young.
And his mother asked him what he was doing, and he told his mother, "You're good." So he was probably born a yogi and is firmly rooted in our Kriya Yoga tradition and a full-time yogi, so to say. Welcome again.
Thank you.
So today we will talk about a delicate matter, if you like. It can be delicate, doesn't have to be, but we want to talk about spiritual mentorship, spiritual teachers, or what yogis also call their guru. Marty, what is a spiritual mentor and what is her or his purpose?
Okay. Well, most spiritual traditions have the traditions of some kind of mentorship, whether it be a priest, a rabbi, a preceptor, and of course in the yogic traditions, a guru. So the person serves as a representative for higher knowledge. Many great teachers often say, I am not the guru, God is the guru, I am just the servant, I am just here to give you knowledge and information and help guide you. So that is in essence what a mentor is for, to teach from their experience and their expertise and to give guidance on the spiritual path.
Yeah. Like you said, in the yogic tradition, spiritual teachers are called gurus. Sometimes guru is simply translated as teacher nowadays, but from its Sanskrit root it means guru. It's actually translated as the dispeller of darkness. And darkness in that sense is ignorance. So the guru guides the disciple or the student to become more aware, more conscious. In the yogic tradition, there are three different levels of teachers or gurus. The first is simply providing information and educating the student. The second is awakening dormant soul forces in the student. So he or she is transmitting spiritual energy, also called Shakti. And then the third kind of spiritual teacher in the yogic tradition is helping the student to become self-realized, purifying the consciousness and really guiding the student to being fully liberated and God realized, if you so will. So what is your take on these three different kind of teachers, and can everyone be all of them, or are some teachers just the first level? And yeah.
Well, some teachers are just the first level, obviously. The third type, though, generally has mastered the first two levels. To have the ability to transmit spiritual energy, what you mentioned called Shakti, requires years of meditation and discipline. It's something that is developed and built in the mind and body.
Does that have also something to do with what Paramahansa Yogananda say, that it's the refinement of the nervous system, so that there's more energy basically flowing?
Yeah, exactly. And, at whatever level we're at, we're going to tend to attract the appropriate level of teacher to us. If we are searching and shopping around, often we'll come across information and maybe a teacher who is good at sharing information and providing guidelines and so on. But then at a certain point, as we become more sincere and more dedicated, and if we're open to it, we may come in contact with the second type of teacher. The third type is much more rare these days. The teacher who can actually guide the seeker to profound knowledge and profound realization. And there are some teachers like that on the planet now, but it's relatively rare.
When you say relatively rare, are we talking in the thousands or hundreds?
Oh, I don't know. I wouldn't dare to estimate.
Okay.
But when they emerge into the public, it's usually obvious, that this is an advanced soul, an advanced being. And then, at the same time, some advanced souls and beings prefer to stay sort of hidden in the background and do their work privately, or their work just with a few chosen students / disciples, and that also happens too. So you have to keep that in mind.
Yeah. So if someone is meeting a spiritual teacher, how can someone really judge, is that the real deal? Is that a person who is fully realized? How can I know if it's a good teacher, basically?
Okay, that's difficult, because there's a spiritual principle that it is difficult to recognize someone who has a higher state of consciousness than us. We are often good at recognizing lower states, but not so much higher states. But the looking at the fruits of what a teacher is producing, and then training our own discernment to recognize truth from untruth. So recognizing an authentic teacher is often something that comes from the heart. It's not so much an intellectual, judgment process, analyzing things. It's more a deeper intuitive feeling that comes from an open heart. Mm. But you've heard it, when the disciple is ready, the teacher appears, and we often, we may have many teachers during our lifetimes, but if we stay intent on the path, we usually find the one that's right for us and appropriate, and we recognize that. Like I said, it's a heart feeling.
Mm. Roy Eugene Davis, in one of his older books, also mentioned that this connection with one's level 3 guru, if you want to put it that way, is really something which then potentially goes over lifetimes. What is your take on that?
I very much believe that's true. I think, it is the role of the guru, particularly the type 3, to guide, once they've accepted you or anyone as a disciple. It is their role and their duty to guide you on the path, not just in this lifetime, but in all lifetimes. And that's sort of a principle or a promise made. And I fully believe that if we find our teaching, that which we feel most drawn to, and we come in contact with a teacher who we feel is resonating with us, that is an eternal relationship. It's not just one lifetime or another. It is an eternal bond. and the role of that particular teacher is to lead us to full God realization.
Right. And maybe important to mention to our listeners is also that in the yogic tradition we believe that our core, our soul, is, so to say, immortal, or it is a unit of the bigger consciousness, which we may call infinite, or people call God. So it's basically we are like a wave in the ocean, but we don't know that we are the ocean, and it's, so to say, our awakening process to eventually have the realization that we are actually the ocean and connect as the ocean rather than the wave. Some gurus which are in the public and calling themselves guru are very shiny, and how, I mean, are all of them true gurus if someone calls him or herself a guru, or how, how can I further kind of distinguish, or what are no-goes? For example, one thing I remember Roy saying is that a true guru would never, if someone comes for advice, would never try to draw or make that person leave their religion or their guru, which they already have. So that's kind of a no-go someone would not do. Is there other things which you can think of?
I think humility is an important quality to look for in a true guru. Again, a true guru, a true teacher will say, don't follow me, follow God, follow your heart. I am just a servant. God is the guru, not me. I'm just a stand-in, if you will. So I think those are important features to look for. And, there's many cult-like behaviors that we have to watch for as soon as, you feel like your own moral values or spiritual values are being compromised or questioned, or you're being asked to do things aren't right, then it becomes obvious. And of course, that does take a sense of discernment to, identify those things.
Right. We have talked a little bit about, what a guru should be like, a spiritual mentor. Now, when we look at the other side, on the student side, how is an ideal student?
I think the number one word is receptive and open, and willing to be responsible for themselves and their own, spiritual disciplines, their own development, and don't expect, because it's just not true. There's not a guru. There's not somebody who is going to come along and, hit you with a magic wand and all of a sudden you're enlightened. It would be nice if it was like, but it's just not. That's not reality. That's not the way it's set up. So being responsible for oneself, being responsible for one's own self-discipline, spiritual disciplines and so on, and then being receptive to the guru. And, I've seen, having been around gurus for 45 years, I've seen students come and, this is my teacher. And then all of a sudden you'll hear them complaining and judging the behavior of, they did this and they did this. And that those people it's not the right time for them or not the right teacher for them. So we have to, if we make a commitment, then we have to make sure in our heart that this is the right relationship. And it may be that there's other relationship. There's many people who have many gurus over a lifetime, but there's usually one special relationship, one special frequency that we find that we know is our attunement.
Right. And in a way, people, like the different levels of spiritual teachers, are also on a different level in their awakening process, but also how intense they want to be on their spiritual path, and what they're willing to do. And what you mentioned, that some people then kind of complain or whatever is, I think it's important also to mention that, you know, become awake or being on the spiritual path is not necessarily just fun and joy. It's hard work because you transform during this process, and so as the spiritual teacher kind of guides you, she or he will also guide you to see your weaknesses and work on your weaknesses, which is not always super comfortable. And in our Kriya Yoga tradition, up to Roy Eugene Davis with, Babaji, Lahiri Mahasaya, Sri Yukteswar, Paramahansa, Yogananda, and Roy Eugene Davis, they all were in their male bodies, so they are all men. So sometimes I hear people saying, well, what does that mean? Are these all machos? Or, does it matter that they are men? Or why are there no women? Is there, like from your point of view, is there, any bias that gurus live in a male body, or is that a coincidence?
I think it's just a coincidence, and much of that's cultural. Of course, Indian culture, they put the male figures up as the ones to do the spiritual work, the Brahmins, if you will. But there's more and more very enlightened women saints that are being recognized, and so I think it's just a cultural issue that will ultimately go away, because it doesn't matter if the soul is in a male or a female body. The same possibilities and trajectory are in both.
Right. I also wonder if female enlightened souls, so to say, are just more, maybe a little bit more in the background too. Like, we still have also this effect that more leaders in the mundane realm, CEOs and managers, and so there's still a bias towards men, and it's a lot is just also here cultural based, and equals out more and more in the mundane, but also in the spiritual organizations, so to say. Some people may also wonder if everybody needs a spiritual mentor, or do you need a person to guide you or not, or does everyone?
At a certain point, I think it's important that there's actually a physical teacher or mentor. In the beginning, books can serve as art, because some great spiritual teachers have passed on, but they've left us lots of roadmaps in the form of information and knowledge, and that can serve as a guide in the beginning. But at a certain point, I think it's important to find a teacher, again, that you're comfortable with, that you feel like you resonate with, so that you can receive that personal instruction. There's something about the personal transmission of knowledge and grace that's important, I think.
Right. And I think that might be true for all different kinds of topics, whatever you learn, that
Sure.
when you have a personal teacher, you can ask
Yeah,
personal questions and individualized questions.
Yes.
So that's I agree 100%. Is there anything else you would like to add today, regarding gurus, mentorship, and so on?
No, I said it earlier, the old saying is that when the disciple is ready, the guru appears. And so that's the secret there, to prepare oneself, to have the desire for a spiritual man, the one that's right for them. And by appear, we don't say, well, they don't materialize somewhere. By appear, how that occurs is a meeting, a book, what seems like coincidence will occur in one's life, and then all of a sudden it becomes quite evident or obvious that this was a process that had been guided all along. And oftentimes, in retrospect, when we look backwards, we say, "Oh, isn't that interesting how this event and circumstance moved to this and this and this, and then boom, there it is. That's how I found my guru." I can say for myself, many years ago, 1978 to be exact, I had a spiritual awakening. I knew I needed to find my teacher, and my first idea was to move to Georgia from New York so that I could attend chiropractic university. Thought it was a great idea. Well, lo and behold, I was there for about a year or two, and one of my classmates invited me to a lecture, and it was Roy, and I knew in that instant that that's my guru. That's what I moved to Georgia for, not to become a chiropractor, but to find my guru. And, in retrospect, I saw how all the events lined up so that could occur.
Yeah, that's wonderful. Yeah, and talking with other meditators, and so we kind of hear these beautiful stories. I think it's also good to remind everyone, that with the spiritual practice you're doing right now, and the more you do it, the more you become like an attractor for the knowledge.
Mm-hmm.
So it will be provided to you in one way or the other.
Yeah.
And so this is good to know. One last thing is, if you like this podcast and you watch it on YouTube, please like it and maybe subscribe our channel. And I will also drop a link below to PowerPoint slides of a talk about gurus, which I gave a couple of years ago. So if you're interested in reading a little bit more about it, just check that out. Otherwise, we are looking forward to seeing you again. We will do another episode with Marty, talking more about his personal experiences with Roy Eugene Davis. All right, have a wonderful day and see you soon.